Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nazhira Putri Daffiza. Today I'm going to explain to you the basic principles of functional grammar. So the discussion so far has raised a number of theoretical issues, as can be seen from the variety of technical terms that have had to be used. We have referred to language as text and as systems, as sounds, as writing, and as wording, as structure, configuration of parts, and as resource choices among alternatives. These are some of the different guises in which a language presents itself when we start to explore its grammar in functional terms. That is, from the standpoint of how it creates and expresses meaning. So these things differentiate between 5 dimensions. So there are 5 dimensions in language and its principles. Okay, the first one is structure or syntagmatic order. So this is the compositional aspects of language referred to in linguistic terminology as constituency. The ordering principle as defined in systemic theory is that of rank. So compositional layers, rather than few in number, organized by the relationship of is a part of, and we have identified 4 such compositional hierarchies in English. So we can see in the table, so the table divided into domain and compositional hierarchy. So the first one is the domain in sound. So the hierarchy is the first one will be tone group, and will be rhythm group, syllable, and phoneme. And the second one, domain in writing. The compositional hierarchy is sentence, and after that will be subsentences, subsentence, word, written one, and letter. And the next one is the domain in verse or spoken. So the first compositional hierarchy is stanza, and then the next one is line, foot or metric, and after that syllable. The last one, domain in grammar. So the compositional hierarchy is the first one is clause, and then after that phrase or group, and then word, and the last thing is morpheme. As we all have been seen, all these compositional hierarchies are ultimately variants of a single motive, the organization of meaning in the grammar. As the language has evolved, they have drifted apart, so as well tend to happen in the history of every language, but traces of their equivalence remain. Example like tone group, subsentence, line, clause. In this, it's distinct from other units above it and below it. From the syllable, which organizes the articulatory sequences of vowels and consonants, and from the tone group, which organizes the pinch movement into patterns of intonation. We go to the second one, which is system or paradigmatic order. So we already talked about structure, which is the syntagmatic ordering in language, like patterns or regularities. So in contrast, system is ordering on the other axis, which is patterns in what could go instead of what. This is the paradigmatic order in language, which is coming from Holiday 1966, that any set of alternatives together with its condition of entry constitutes a system in its technical senses. So an example would be all clauses are either positive or negative, or more fully, like all clauses select in the system of polarity whose terms are positive and negative. So we can see in here the picture of the system of polarity. So there are clauses in the first one, and then the arrow goes to divide it into 2, which is positive and negative. So this is called the system of polarity, which is contained of positive and negative clause. Positive and negative are contrasting features of the clause, which could be made manifest in many different ways. They represent an aspect of the meaning potential of the language, and they are mutually defining. Not positive means the same thing as negative, and not negative means the same thing as positive. And we go to the relationship between these two systems is one of delicacy. So the second one is more delicate than the first. Delicacy in the system can be called like it's a kind of, which is the analog of rank in the structure, which is called is a part of. So we can see in here in the picture, this is the system of polarity, next step in delicacy. So there's two systems in here. So the way a system and structure go together can be illustrated by showing a simplified version of the system network for mood. This can be read as follows. A clause is either a major or minor in status. So if it's major, it has predicator in its structure, but a major clause is either indicative or imperative in mood. So if it's indicative, it has a finite and a subject.
Hey guys, the next materials will be explained by me, Elika, Oktavia, Saputri. So we come to the number 3, stratification. We are accustomed to talking about language under different headings. School grammar books used to have chapters on pronunciation, orthography, morphology, and syntax with a vocabulary added at the end. And this acknowledges the fact that a language is a complex semiotic system having various levels or strata. We have made the same assumption here, referring to the sound system, the writing system, and the wording system. That is phonology, orthography or graphology, and grammar. We also noted, on the other hand, that grammar and vocabulary are not different strata. They are the two poles of a single continuum, properly called lexicogrammar. Similarly, syntax and morphology are not different strata. They are both part of grammar. The distinction evolved because in Indonesia European languages, the structure of words morphology tends to be strikingly different from the structure of clause or syntax, but this is not a feature of languages in general. What does it mean to say that these are different strata? In infants' proto-language, which has a yet not grammar in it, in the elements are simple signs. For example, a meaning "give me that" is expressed directly by a sound like na 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 na, or maybe a gesture of some kind. Okay, we move to the next slide. The way it does this is by splitting the task into two. In step 1, the interfacing part, experience and interpersonal relationships are transformed into one meaning. This is the stratum of semantics. And in step 2, the meaning is further transformed into wording. This is the stratum of lexicogrammar. This is, of course, expressing it from the point of view of a speaker or writer. For a listener or reader, the steps are the other way around. And here, however, the environment is the human body, the biological resource with which sounding or signing is carried out, taking sounds or spoken language as the base. The stratification is into phonetics, the interfacing with the body's resources for speech and for hearing, and phonology, the organization of speech sounds into formal structures and systems. And a language is a series of redundancies by which we link our eco-social environment to non-random disturbances in the air or sound waves. Each step is, of course, masterminded by the brain. The relationship among the strata or the process of linking one level of organization with another is called realization. Okay, we move to the next slide. Number 4, instantiation. When we want to explain how language is organized and how its organizations relates to the function it fulfills in human lives, we often find it difficult to make things clear, and this is because we are trying to maintain two perspectives at once. One perspective is that of language as a system. The other perspective is that language is a text. The concept we need here is that of instantiation. The system of a language is instantiated in the form of text. A text may be a trivial surface encounter like ordering coffee, or it may be a momentous event in human history like Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech. And a text in English has no semiotic standing other than by reference to the system of language, which is why it has no meaning for you if you do not know the language. The system is the underlying potential of language, or its potential as a meaning-making resource. This does not mean that it exists as an independent phenomenon. There are two separate objects, language as a system and language as a set of text.
Okay, we go to the last one, which is meta functions. So it is clear that language does, as we put it, construe human experience. It names things, thus construing them into categories like place or people and etc. And then typically goes further and construes the categories into taxonomies, often using more names for doing so. So there's no facet of human experience which cannot be transformed into meaning. So in other words, in short, language provides a theory of human experience, and certain of resources of the lexicographer of every language are dedicated to that function. So this theory that we talk about is called ideational metafunction. So this is in which examining the process that are described and understood in language. So this will so these metafunction will be distinguished into two components. They are experiential and the logical.
In the next slide, while construing language is always also enacting our personal and social relationship with the other people around us, the clause of grammar is not only a figure representing some process, some doing or happening, saying or sensing, being or having, with its various participants and circumstances. It is also propositions or a proposal whereby we inform or question, give an order or make an offer, and express our appraisal of an attitude towards whoever we are addressing and what we are talking about. This kind of meaning is more attractive if the ideational function of the grammar is language as reflection. This is language as action. We call it the interpersonal metafunction to suggest that is both interactive and personal. So the next slide. This distinction between two modes of meaning is not just made from outside. When the grammar is represented systematically, it shows up two distinct networks of systems. What it signifies is that one, every message is both about something and addressing someone, and two, these two motives can be freely combined. By and large, they do not constrain each other. But the grammar also shows up a third component, other mode of meaning, which relates to the construction of the text. And in a sense, this can be regarded as an enabling of facilitating stating function, since both the others constructing experience and enacting interpersonal relations depend on being able to build up sequences of discourse, organizing the discursive flow and creating cohesion and continuity as it moves along. This too appears as a clearly delineated motif within the grammar, and we call it the textual meta function. Okay, guys, I think that's all from us. I hope you guys understand what we have explained so far. Thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.